Today, for the 12 Days of Yule challenge, we're talking about connecting with the local land. And so one of the things that I do is I go to local historical sites, which is why my background looks a bit different today. As part of that, it's meeting not just the spirits of the land, but the people who lived here. I am exceedingly blessed to live in Gold Country in California. So within an hour of my home, there is Goldbug Park, there's Coloma, there's multiple national forests, and an abundance of local graveyards that are just small. So rather than really talking a whole bunch, I'm going to show a variety of places that I go to connect to the land. So here, there's a location to learn how to pan for gold here at the Goldbug Park and Mine. And you can see how, even though it's a park, we're incredibly wooded in this area. So these are the stairs where I filmed earlier. And so here's the mine itself, at least part of it. So can't go in, but they do offer tours. And one of the other things about this area that is often forgotten is just how culturally diverse those who lived here during the gold rush actually were. You had people from all over Europe, all over Asia, and from Africa, all congregating here to make a fortune. And while not very many people actually made a fortune other than the merchants, it led to having a very culturally diverse area for the time period. So we're only going to come up to the top of these stairs real quick. But because of the cultural diversity of the area, there's a huge number of spiritual influences that you can interact with. Not just those of nature, but also the various people who lived, worked, and died in these mines. And this particular location is only 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes from my house. Clearly, I have not been doing enough exercise, as you can tell from my heavy breathing. Although the stairs are also kind of steep and I've already been doing things. And so here's the priest mine. And one of the things that shaped this land around where I live, if you notice, most of these trees, even though they look huge, aren't actually that old. Most of the old growth isn't here anymore because the land was hydraulically mined. So almost all of these trees are under 100 years old. You'll notice most of them are either small oaks, like this one here, or the faster growing pines that are quite a bit taller. But in general, this is one of the first and most lovely ways that I have found to connect with the local land, is just to actually walk it, learn the history of the people. And I know I'm being repetitive. That's kind of what happens when you're doing more of a talk as you walk vlog style, but there's a view I wanted to show you up at the top of this ridge over here. Where, as you can see, the park butts up right onto private property. So we're not going to cross that line, but we're going to look out and see. So the main road is just down there at the bottom of this hill, but it's a valley. And so living here in these foothills, there is such a rich diversity of both weather, plant life, animal life, and just people. So I think that's it for here at the Goldbug Mine and Park. And we will check back in just a moment from another local location. So this is one of the local cemeteries. I actually walked by it every day on my way to high school, because I lived close enough at that point to walk to it past it every day. I'm not sure if this is loud enough for you to actually hear, so I might have to do voiceover. We will find out. So one of the other ways I connect to the land here is to witness and speak to those who are interred on the land. Many of these little graveyards are just scattered across these foothill communities because it's where there was space and enough dirt. Because sadly, like I was saying in one of my other clips, there was a lot of hydraulic mining around here. So there had to be enough space to adequately bury people as well, in soil that you could actually dig deep enough. So learning some of these historical facts is part of what helps me connect to the land. Here is the view from the entrance, and as you can see, we are right next to, as you probably can hear, a main thoroughfare, and I'm going to do my best to be respectful of other visitors. So join me as I just walk around a little bit and say hello. It's been a while since I've been here. Mostly because in the last 6 years I have been caring for my own father as he drew to the end of life. And so a big passion of his was genealogy, and he did a phenomenal amount of research throughout his life, not just of our own ancestors, but also where we live. As you can tell, probably from my footsteps, there's a lot of loose leaf material. But even though we are next to two major roads, the spirits here are still remarkably peaceful. And it is lovely being able to stop for a few minutes and just walk. And as you can see, as I was saying earlier about finding space, there is quite a bit of steep slope here. So we're going to carefully make our way up to the top of the hill again. And while the oldest graves have these much larger headstones, as you can see over here, and you can see they're not as well maintained as they used to be. I remember as a teenager coming to several of the local graveyards, or it's more appropriate to say cemeteries. I remember coming and doing cleanup and restoration at several of them. And there's also a space where there are many of the more modern of those who have died in recent years are actually interred here with their ashes rather than their full bodies. And there's quite a few names that are on these walls that I recognize, not because I knew them personally in life, because I was too young to know most of them, but I recognize them because they are some of the founding individuals of this community and actually still play a rather major role in local politics. And so it's part of learning the land is learning the people, at least in my personal experience. And in my case, this is the community I grew up in. And inside of this cemetery are the remains of many people who were the movers and shakers of this community ever since the gold rush. And because of that, they have changed how actually just even the literal face of this land, because of the decisions that they made in regards to local politics. Even down to the placement of Highway 50, which goes through the center of town and necessitated the moving of multiple houses and historical buildings to make way for the freeway. And so I have found in my own personal practice, this is one of the best ways to get to know the land, is to know the people. And even though the freeway is now very close to this, there is a feeling of peace and quiet, even though you can still hear all of the vehicles. Because the freeway is actually just down over there on the other side of that ridge. So there is some sound dampening, but it's less than half a mile away from here. And as I said, again, just connecting with the people and the events, the history of a place. And while in the grand scheme of things, most of the history I have talked about in this video is modern, I mean, only going back the last 200 years, 300 years, because there aren't graves from earlier than that in this particular area. I would need to go further afield for that. And so I just want to say thank you for joining me on this day of Yule. I forget which day this one's being posted. And for being able to enjoy a quick walk with me, both here at one of the cemeteries and also at the Goldbug Park and Mine.